Alrighty, hey everybody. So today we're going to be talking about the film MaXXXine, directed by Ty West, starring Mia Goth and a slew of other pretty famous actors. I saw this one last weekend. I want to say I saw it on opening night. I was really excited for it based on the trailer and based on previously watching X and then Pearl the night before. The trailer for this was great. It got me pretty excited just because it looked somewhat original. I do like good horror films, I do like thrillers, and so I went into this with a pretty open mind, expecting it to be pretty good. So going right into the actual review, I will say this is probably my least favorite of the three films. I think that Pearl was really, really, really good. I think that was my favorite of the three. I think I like them in the order of what they're supposed to be chronologically. Um, but essentially, this one continues after X, which is the first film, and it follows Maxine's story after the events of X, her survival. Spoiler alert, she survives X to go into this film. And so now she's a Hollywood actress. She's working in the adult industry within Hollywood at this point, and this is her first opportunity to really get her big break into moving into a Hollywood production, into a normal film. And yeah, I'll say that it was pretty good. I think I gave it a 6 out of 10 on IMDb. As you can see I'm trying to do a little bit more production value so that we can see what it is that I'm talking about and give a little bit more reference to the film. Um, but yeah, I think it was a pretty solid movie. Uh, as Maxine is getting into the film industry and she has her first big break, which is getting a part in a gosh, I don't even remember the type of film she's actually getting into. I'd have to go back and look. Um, but while she is getting her big break, there is a serial killer in Hollywood that is murdering essentially porn stars who are in Hollywood, the Night Stalker, and so that's sort of the 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 foundation of the plot of the film is the uncovering and the mystery of who is killing all these people, and also uh, there is a investigator played by Kevin Bacon who is investigating Maxine based on what happened in the film X. Uh, he's from Texas and he is trying to track down Maxine and uncover her past. Uh, and then she uh, essentially is the hero of the film. It's about her surviving through this ordeal and continuing to um yeah, get past all of the trauma of what happened in X and then getting to be, a film star. Overall, I would say the first two-thirds of the film I very much enjoyed. Um, I'd say the ending falls a little bit flat for me. I think it got a little too plot heavy. I think they explained a little too much, and I think would have wanted a different ending to the film. It feels a little bit too blockbuster for me. Um, but across the board, the performances are very, very good. Um, Giancarlo Esposito plays her agent, and he has some pretty great scenes. Uh, the support of all of her co-stars and all of her friends around her made for some good character interaction. And I want to say the producer of the film that she's getting into is the actress from uh, what I recognize her from is she was in Tenet. She played the wife of the bad guy in Tenet. So let me see who that actress was. Let's take a look. Yeah, Elizabeth Debicki, and she sort of plays the hard woman producer in Hollywood, but she also gives her some mentorship on how to succeed going into this next level of her career. Um, but a little bit about the plot. Obviously, based on the trailers, you can see that it follows Maxine and the mystery of the Night Stalker, who we'll kind of get into some spoilers generally about the film. Is that her a couple of her friends that are very close to her get murdered by the Night Stalker, and so Kevin Bacon shows up, and they're sort of uh, I had a feeling from the very get go that he had to have been involved somehow with the Night Stalker or related to it, just based on his character, based on his acting, and the fact that he's showing up around the same time as these murders are starting to happen. Kevin Bacon was pretty great in it. He kind of, not sure how I feel about his accent. I think he pulled it off well enough. Um, I think it goes without saying, Mia Goth is great in the film. She is the star of the film. As she says, she's a fucking movie star in the trailer. And yeah, I think across the board, she does a phenomenal job playing this role. Um, she has just a different type of actress or actors um, presence. She brings a lot to the role, and overall, I would say it was pretty enjoyable. I'm gonna get into spoilers on the ending because I think that's kind of what deteriorated what I thought was a pretty damn good sequel. Um, there's these two investigators that are following Maxine and trying to uncover who the Night Stalker is and obviously stop them or stop the Night Stalker. And I want to say, who are the actors? I recognize both of them as well. Let's see if we can find out who they were. They got Kevin Bacon pretty far along the line in this. Let's go to the full top cast and um, who are we looking at? Bobby Cannavale, Detective Torres, and then Michelle Monaghan. So Michelle Monaghan, I do recognize now looking at her name. They play some pretty good detectives. Um, he's a little bit more of the gung ho, uh, harder detective, and Michelle Monaghan is probably the smarter of the two and understands the situation a little bit better and how to go about it. Uh, and so as the plot progresses, there's a few more murders that occur throughout, and as things are kind of closing in on Maxine from Kevin Bacon's character, uh, we eventually get to the point that we figure out who the Night Stalker is. Before I spoil who it is, I'll just say that I think it could have been better. I think it was a little too on the nose, and I think it could have had a uh, more creative ending. Um, Spoilers for the ending. Essentially, in both in X and then in this film, it starts off and there are references to this preacher in Texas, who we come to find out is her father in in X at the ending. And it turns out that the Night Stalker is her father, who is this preacher from Texas who wants to save her from the devil and save her from demons, and the life of depravity, according to him, that she is leading. And I don't know. I think that kind of fell flat for me a little bit. I think that his character was a little bit more ridiculous, and then it leads to this final culmination at the end of the film, where essentially they're having a ritual in the Hollywood Hills. It's this very private, very extravagant property, this mansion. And I guess maybe he made a lot of money being a preacher. Um, but I'm not quite sure how he had access to that property. How did he acquire it? Perhaps he's super rich. But that was a little ridiculous for me. And yeah, there's this scene at the end where she goes up there and she's trying to find out who it is. She had been given a name and an address earlier in the film when trying to figure out where this party was. One of her friends who was murdered, who was an adult film actress, she's the one that tells her where to go, um, and gives her this address. And she gets there, and they're having like a ritual there where essentially the father is, I'm not sure what he's gonna do. He's gonna have an exorcism essentially, and film it and broadcast it, and expose Maxine for who she is. And you know, she can't proceed to kill him because it's her father, and she has a lapse uh, in sort of her ambition to kill the Night Stalker. And yeah, it sort of fell flat at that ending part because the officers that are following her, they show up and there's a big gunfight right underneath the Hollywood sign, and it was just sort of an unsatisfying ending for me. I thought it could have been more creative. There were sort of hints. About halfway through the film, I started to think like, oh no, is it gonna be the dad? And sure enough, it was. Um, so I didn't love the last third of the film. That third act was a little lackluster, if you will. And so I think the things about the film that I really liked, obviously, was Mia Goth, uh, and the performances of all the actors in it. It was believable enough, and um, I loved all of the Hollywood stuff. There was sort of it reminded me a bit of being able to see behind the scenes of Hollywood, being on some of the sets, being, on the I'm not sure the Hollywood studio that hired her. I'm guessing it must have been Universal, whoever produced Psycho, because there's parallels to Psycho in this. Uh, while she's in the studio, and when she's you know on the set prepping up for this new film that she's going to be in, they show the Bates Motel, and they show the house behind it, and it kind of leads to a later part in the film where she's running from Kevin Bacon, and goes into the house. Uh, so I liked all of that. I liked getting to see a little bit more of like the darker side of Hollywood, being on film sets, being around the studios. I liked all of that. Um, but again, going back to that third act, it, it it just kind of falls flat. I think it's a little. It could have been more creative, and the Night Stalker, in hindsight, is not. It's not as mysterious as I was hoping it was going to be. Obviously in the first film they unveil who the killer is, but that was a lot more, while somewhat predictable. I think the execution of it was better. So yeah, across the board, I'd say 6 out of 10. If you liked X and you liked Pearl, I'd say this is definitely worth a watch. Um, you know, keep your expectations sort of grounded, but yeah, I'd recommend it for horror fans, and for sort of, it's got a little bit of film noir presence to it, and yeah, I guess that's probably all I can say about it. There's plenty more plot details that I could go into, um, but everybody does a very good job in the acting department, minus the father. I think the father was a little over the top, um, and yeah, wasn't super. That part wasn't super thrilling for me. So, um, yeah, 6 out of 10. Support the film for Mia Goth. I think she's a great actress in it, and Kevin Bacon's fun. The police officers were fun. Her friends are great. She's friends with this movie store guy who uh, operates out of the building that she lives in. I really liked her character interaction with him. So, yeah, no, open up the discussion. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Tell me what you guys thought of the ending as well, or what other things stood out in the film for you. Uh, but yeah, thanks for stopping by, and we'll see you on the next one.